Paul Rodriguez with Red Rock Audubon. I'd like to take a few minutes just to talk to you about climate change and how it affects birds in your local area. And so recently Audubon released their new climate report called Survival by Degrees. You can get to it by going to audubon.org/climate/survival by degrees, or you can click the link below this video. So what they've been able to determine is that 2/3 of all North American birds are at risk of extinction from global temperature rise. So let's take a look at some of the data here. And scientists, the Audubon scientists, have taken 140 million observations that were recorded by scientists and birders like you and me. And what they've been able to do with that data is describe where 604 North American bird species live today, or their, the area known as their range, and then take that data and plug it into climate models to be able to project how these species, how their range will shift over time, because of temperature rise and other human impacts like urbanization and farming and that type of stuff. So if we take a look at the data here, some of the data, if I scroll down a little bit here, there's some examples here with different birds, and this one example here is with the bobolink. This is a songbird that it's actually got a pretty long migration distance. It breeds in North America and then spends its winters down in South America. So what scientists are saying is that, if we can hold global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, by the end of the century, that the impacts will be less on some of these birds, some of these animals that live here in North America. And so let's take a look at what exactly is a mean temperature rise, and what does it mean? How's it calculated? So if we go over here to this website here, the mean daily temperature is calculated by taking the temperature every hour, in a certain location, take the temperature every hour, add them all together, and divide it by 24, and that gives us the mean daily temperature. And from that we can calculate the monthly mean temperature and the yearly mean temperatures. And then if we take, say, locations from all over the globe, maybe thousands of different locations, and add those all together and then average it out, that gives us a mean global temperature. And from that we can tell if the temperature is trending up or down. And so over the years, several years, scientists have been able to determine that our temperature, our global temperature, is actually rising. So what exactly does that mean? When you say a 3-degree temperature rise, and that's in Celsius, that calculates to about it calculates to 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit. When you think about it, that sounds a little silly. 5 degrees. We see temperature swings like that all the time here in southern Nevada. But what happens is, when you've got the global temperature, the entire global temperature trending upwards, that might mean that temperatures, say our winters are actually warmer than normal. And so that can cause shifts in ranges, where animals live. So let's take this example of the bobolink. Its current range is here in North America. Now, if we were to go with a 1.5 degree rise, which is what scientists are hoping we can hold it to by the end of the century, you'll see that the range gain is 42%. The range lost is 43%. So we have a net loss of 1% of its range. So basically what's happened is the bobolink's breeding range has moved to the north here. At a 2-degree rise, now we have about a 15-degree net loss in habitat or range. And a 3-degree rise, now we're losing about 32%. So I mean, that's a huge, that's a pretty good size range loss, in that now these birds have a small area to breed, and they're competing, you know, with not only their own species for food and places to live, but they're also competing with other species. So that can be, you know, devastating to different species. So let's take a look at how this affects birds in your local area. So they've created this climate visualizer, and what I've done is I put in my zip code. You can put in yours. You can put in your state. You can enter your email address here if you want to. You don't have to, and then you'll get updates from Audubon on what you can do to help protect birds. So let's do a quick search here of my zip code. And as you can see, I live in Clark County. And so with a 3-degree Celsius rise, what they're saying here is that 35 bird species are highly vulnerable. And you can see the different species here that either live in our area or migrate through our area. And so if we hold it to 1.5-degree rise, now we have only 3 vulnerable species. So let's take a look, at how these ranges are affected here. And so let's take a look at the mountain bluebird and its range. So as you can see here, with the 3-degree rise, this red area represents habitat loss or range loss. If we can hold it, still considerable amount of loss, but we'll take a look at this in a little more detail. So you can, if you scroll down, you can take a look and see how birds, as the temperature rises, how they become more vulnerable, or different species become more vulnerable. So like say here, probably the most affected birds in our area are the western forest birds. And if we click on the 1.5, you can see how it shifts. The vulnerability shifts over into less vulnerable. So you can, hold your cursor over these and see what species are the most vulnerable, and how much of their range will be lost. So let's take a closer look at the mountain bluebird. That's the Nevada state bird. And we'll take a look at its current range. So, well, before we do that, let's look at a little more detail about this bird. So as you can see here, this map shows its breeding and wintering range. So the pink represents the common breeding areas, and so you can see that it breeds mainly up here in the north. As we look at this in more detail, you'll be able to see different places closer to Las Vegas where it breeds. But let's scroll down here and we'll look at this map. So this is the current summer range. Okay, we can switch to winter, and as you can see, it winters further to the south here, down into Mexico. Just from my own experience, I know that I see the mountain bluebird in this area more in the winter time. So, that's probably the best time to see it in our area. Let's go back to the summer breeding period. So as you can see, if we can hold it to a 1.5 degree rise, we get a, about a 25% range loss. That's pretty significant. So, and if we go to 2, we lose about 30%, and at 3, we lose about 44% of their breeding range is lost. I mean, that's pretty considerable. I mean, you think about it, as humans, if we were to lose 44% of the areas that we live in, that would be that would be devastating. Even 25% would be devastating for us. So, these birds are, to me, they're kind of an indicator of our own future. The canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So, something to consider, and maybe it's time to take some action. So what can you and I do, to mitigate climate change, global warming? So if you go back to the Audubon site, let's go to the home page. You can click here, and here's some action steps you can take. I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but you could do this on your own. So, start a conversation. There's some good tips here and some articles. Read through these. Here's something from a person who switched to an electric car. That might be something you can consider. Here's this to me, this is a good example of why we really need to take care of our planet, our home, because if we were to decide our planet is no longer habitable, what would we do? Could we travel to another planet? The nearest possible habitable planet would take over 70,000 years to get there, with our current technology. It's just not feasible. It just makes more sense to take care of what we have now. Lead your community. Lower your carbon footprint. There's some great advice here on things you can do. I'm just going to scroll through these real quick. Start making an impact. Get involved in some of these other things. Talk to your groups that you already belong to. That's a great way to get things moving. Join a national cause. Well, Audubon is a great way to do that. So there's all these tools that you and I can use, we can plug into, we can get involved, we can start a conversation, and I'm hoping that you use this website. That you use this website to start that conversation and get things moving. And let's all work together, and hopefully we can save some of these birds that we love looking at. We love to go out and enjoy, and hopefully they'll be around for not only us, but our children and our grandchildren. So thank you for taking the time. I hope this helps. I hope this helps explain how this works and how you can get involved. So thank you very much.